I walked into that country club carrying my son, my wife beside me, holding our daughter, and the room went quiet like someone had just seen a ghost. It wasn't loud. No one gasped. No one said a word. But you could feel it. Conversation stalled mid-sentence. Glasses paused halfway to lips. A few people just stared like they were trying to make sense of something that didn't fit anymore. Rachel Turner was standing near the bar. She saw me first, then Emily, then the babies. And I watched the moment it hit her. But to understand why that room went quiet, I've got to take you back. Our Suleiman. My name's Mark Sullivan. I'm 47 now. Been a contractor most of my life here in Columbus, Ohio. I build things for a living, kitchens, decks, additions. Nothing fancy, just honest work. Fix what's broken, make something solid that'll last. At least that's what I thought I was doing with my life. I met Rachel back in 2003. I was 25 working long days trying to get my own contracting business off the ground. She worked at a dental office up in Worthington. We met at a friend's 4th of July barbecue, one of those backyard things, with folding chairs, cheap beer, and somebody's uncle burning burgers on the grill. She laughed at something I said. I remember that part clear as day. We started seeing each other not long after. Nothing rushed, just weekends at first, then dinners during the week. Before I knew it, she had a toothbrush at my place, then clothes, then she just stayed. By 2008, I proposed. Nothing big. Took her out to Alum Creek, walked along the water, got down on one knee like a cliche. She said yes, cried a little. I figured that was it, we were set. Life didn't move fast for us. We weren't one of those couples that jumped straight into kids and chaos. We worked, saved, took a trip to Gatlinburg once a year, built routines. Around my late 30s, I bought a small house on the west side. Nothing special. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, needed work, but that was fine, I knew how to fix it. I spent months on that place, new floors, updated kitchen, fresh paint. Rachel picked out most of the colors. She liked soft grays, said it made the place feel clean. There was one room we left for last, the 2nd bedroom. We always called it the future room. Never said it out loud, but we both knew what it was for. By the time we hit our early 40s, that conversation got louder. Friends had kids already halfway through high school. Rachel started noticing. You could tell. Maybe we waited too long, she said once, sitting at the kitchen table. We're fine, I told her. We've got time. Turns out time doesn't always work the way you think it does. In early 2023, we finally went to see a specialist at Ohio Health. Clean office, quiet, smelled like disinfectant and coffee. The doctor was a calm guy, late 50s maybe, the kind of person who doesn't rush his words. He looked over the tests, flipped through the pages, then leaned back in his chair. Mark, he said, your numbers are lower than average. It doesn't mean impossible, but it does mean it could be difficult. I remember nodding, trying to process it. Low probability, he said again. Not 0, but lower. That's what he said. Low probability. Not impossible. We drove home in silence. Rachel stared out the window the whole time. When we got back to the house, I set the folder on the kitchen counter. Same counter we'd eaten dinner at for years. Same place we'd talked about everything, vacations, bills, what color to paint the living room. She didn't sit down. She didn't ask questions. She just stood there for a second, then reached for her hand. And slowly, she slid off her engagement ring. Set it down on the counter like it didn't mean anything. I'm not wasting the rest of my life on a man who can't give me a child, she said. Just like that. No yelling, no tears. 15 years, reduced to 1 sentence. I remember staring at the ring, not at her, at the ring. Because if I looked at her, I think something in me would have broken right there. Rachel, I said, that's all I got out. She grabbed her purse, walked past me, didn't even brush my arm, and then she was gone. Front door closed, engine started, tires on gravel. That was it. That night I sat in the living room with the lights off. Didn't turn on the TV, didn't eat, just sat there. The house felt wrong, like it didn't belong to me anymore. Around 9, my phone rang. Linda. Her mother. I almost didn't answer. Shouldn't have, probably. But I did. Mark, she said, her voice tight, controlled. Rachel told me what happened. I didn't say anything. She let out a breath. Not a sad one, more like disappointment. A man who can't give a woman a child, she said slowly, isn't much of a man at all. I remember gripping the phone harder. That's not what the doctor said, I told her. My voice sounded strange, distant. She ignored that. You've wasted enough of her time. Click. She hung up. No goodbye. I sat there a long time after that call. Not angry, not yet. Just empty, like someone had taken everything I thought I was and hollowed it out. A couple days later, I walked into that second bedroom, the one we never finished. There were still paint cans in the corner, a drop cloth folded up near the wall. I'd put in new baseboards but never painted them. I stood in the doorway looking at it, trying to remember what it was supposed to be. A nursery, a future, something that never even got a chance. I stepped inside, ran my hand along the wall, bare drywall in spots where I'd been sanding. I thought about finishing it. Then I thought, what for? So I turned off the light, closed the door, and for a while I just left it that way. A few weeks passed before I heard from Emily. Not right away. Not the next day, not even that week, which honestly I respected. Most people either flood you with fake concern or disappear completely. She did neither. It was a Tuesday morning when my phone buzzed. I was sitting in my truck outside a job site in Hilliard, finishing a gas station coffee that had already gone cold. Her name popped up. Emily Carter. I stared at it for a second before answering. Hey, she said. Her voice was calm, same as always. I heard what happened. Yeah, I said. News travels fast. She didn't laugh. I'm sorry, Mark. That wasn't right, the way she handled it. I leaned back in the seat, looking out at a couple guys unloading lumber. It is what it is, I said. There was a pause, not awkward, just space. You eaten yet, she asked. I almost said no out of habit. Then I realized I hadn't had a real meal in 2 days. No, I said. There's a diner on Main Street, she said. Nothing fancy. I'm off today. If you want, I could meet you there. I hesitated. Not because of her, because of what it might mean. But then again, sitting alone clearly wasn't helping. All right, I said. Yeah. Sure you in a red shirt. The place was exactly what she said. Small, old booths, coffee that never stopped flowing, a waitress who called everyone Han. Emily was already there when I walked in. No makeup, jeans, light jacket, hair tied back. She stood when she saw me. Hey, she said. Hey. We sat down, ordered eggs and toast, nothing complicated. For a while, we didn't talk about Rachel at all. We talked about work. She told me about the hospital, long shifts, short staffing, same complaints you hear everywhere now. I told her about a deck I was building for a couple out in Dublin. Normal stuff. It felt strange, in a good way. After the food came, she finally looked at me a little more directly. You okay, she asked. I thought about giving the usual answer. Yeah, I'm fine. But something about the way she asked it made that feel pointless. No, I said, not really. She nodded, didn't try to fix it, didn't jump in with advice. Just listened. That was new. We started meeting like that once or twice a week. Coffee, walks along the Scioto Mile, sometimes just sitting on a bench watching people go by. She never pushed, never dug for details, but when I did talk, she paid attention. One afternoon, maybe 3 weeks in, I asked her something that had been sitting in the back of my mind. Did she say anything to you, I asked? Emily knew who I meant. She took a breath. She's been worried for a while, she said carefully. About having kids, about time running out. I nodded. That doesn't excuse it, she added quickly. The way she left, that was cold. Her mom's been in her ear, I said. Emily gave a small, tired smile. Linda's always in everyone's ear. We both knew that was true. Being around Emily felt quiet. Not silent, just steady. No tension, no walking on eggshells, no feeling like I had to prove anything. One evening we were sitting by the river, the sun going down behind the buildings. I keep thinking I should have done something different, I said. Like what she asked. I don't know. Gone to the doctor sooner, worked less, paid more attention. She shook her head. Mark, she said, you didn't cause this? I looked at her. Then why does it feel like I did? She didn't answer right away. Because you were the one who stayed, she said finally. And when someone leaves like that, it makes you question everything about yourself. That one landed. Hard. Wakin mama you was. Time moved. Not fast, not slow, just forward. Around late summer, I started working on the house again. Small things at first, fixing a cabinet hinge, replacing a light fixture. Then one Saturday, I opened the door to that second bedroom, the one I'd closed. It still smelled like dust and paint. Emily was over that day. She stood in the doorway behind me. You gonna finish it? She asked. I shrugged. Don't know what for. She didn't answer right away. Then she stepped past me into the room, ran her hand along the wall same way I had months before. Doesn't have to be what it was before, she said. I watched her for a second. Then I went out to the garage, grabbed a paint roller. We didn't rush anything. That's important. This wasn't one of those stories where everything suddenly becomes perfect overnight. I had doubts. A lot of them. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I was just filling a space, if she was doing the same. Once I almost called Rachel. Had my phone in my hand, her name right there. I stared at it for a long time. Then I set it down. Didn't call. Circin monoform. By early fall, things had settled into something real. Not dramatic, not exciting in the way people think. Just steady. One afternoon after we finished lunch at that same diner, Emily wiped her hands on a napkin and looked at me. You ever think about what comes next? She asked. I knew what she meant. Yeah, I said, I do. And I took a breath. I don't want to go backwards, I said. I know that much. She nodded. Me neither. We sat there for a minute. Then I said it. Let's get married. No big speech, no ring. Just that. She looked at me, really looked. You sure? She asked. No, I said honestly. But I know I don't want to do this without you. That was enough. We went down to the Franklin County Courthouse a couple weeks later. No crowd, no decorations, just a clerk, a couple signatures, and a quiet congratulations. We walked out into the parking lot afterward. It was cold that day. One of those early Ohio chills that creeps in before winter really hits. Emily slipped her hand into mine. That's it, she said, half smiling. That's it, I said. No fireworks. No big moment. But as we stood there, I realized something. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost. I was thinking about what was right in front of me. That night back at the house, I slept. Really slept. No replaying conversations. No staring at the ceiling. Just quiet. And in the morning, I woke up and didn't immediately feel that weight in my chest. It wasn't gone. But it wasn't everything anymore. 2 pink lines. I stared at that little plastic stick longer than I probably should have. Checked it once. Then again. Then I walked it over to the window like better lighting was going to change the answer. It didn't. Emily was sitting on the edge of the bed watching me. Well, she asked. I looked at her. My throat felt tight all of a sudden. It's positive, I said. She let out a breath, half laugh, half something else, and covered her mouth with her hand. Her eyes filled up, but she didn't cry. Not really, just sat there taking it in. You sure? She asked. I held it up. 2 lines, I said. Pretty sure that's not subtle. She shook her head, smiling now, but there was something else in it too. Surprise, maybe even disbelief. Okay, she said quietly. Okay. I sat down next to her. For a minute, neither of us said anything. Then it hit me. Hard. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, staring at the floor. You all right? She asked. Yeah, I said automatically. But I wasn't. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, something had started to shift. If this was real, then what did that make everything that came before? We went to the doctor the following week. Different office this time. Smaller, less polished. The kind of place where the chairs don't match and the receptionist knows everyone's name. The doctor, Dr. Patel, went through the basics, asked questions, ordered some follow-up tests. When I mentioned my previous diagnosis, he nodded. Low probability doesn't mean impossible, he said. It just means less likely. I know, I said. He glanced at Emily, then back at me. Stress can play a role too, he added. It's not always the whole picture, but it can affect things more than people think. I didn't respond to that. Just nodded again. But on the drive home, I kept thinking about it. About the last few years. About the tension, the pressure, the way every conversation with Rachel eventually circled back to the same thing. Kids, time, expectations. I gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. Didn't say anything out loud. Kamenanon, Sarito one. A few weeks later, we found out it wasn't just one. It was two. Twins. The ultrasound tech turned the screen slightly so we could see. There, she said, pointing. And there. Two flickers. Two heartbeats. I felt something in my chest shift again. Not sharp this time. Not painful. Just heavy. In a good way. Emily squeezed my hand. Guess we're going big, she said, her voice shaky but smiling. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Yeah, I said, guess we are. It wasn't all easy after that. People hear twins and think it's some kind of miracle story. And it was in a way. But it was also bills, doctor visits, long nights running numbers at the kitchen table. I picked up more work, took on jobs I probably would have passed on before, drove farther, worked later. One night I came home after dark covered in sawdust and found Emily asleep on the couch, one hand resting on her stomach. The TV was on low, some cooking show playing in the background. I stood there for a minute just watching her. Then I grabbed a blanket, laid it over her, and turned off the lights. That was our life. Nothing flashy, just showing up. The house changed too. That second bedroom finally got finished. Fresh paint, new crib, well, two cribs. I had to laugh the first time I set them up side by side. Didn't plan that. Didn't plan any of this, really. There were nights I stood in that doorway again looking in. But it didn't feel like it did before. It wasn't about what used to be. It was about what was coming. Rachel got engaged that same year. I heard it from someone at the hardware store. Hey, you hear about Rachel, the guy behind the counter said, ringing up my order. I kept my voice even. No, I said. She's with some real estate guy now. David Klein. Big money, I think. Already got kids, too. I nodded. Good for her, I said. And I meant it. Or at least, I told myself I did. Later that week, I saw a picture online. Didn't go looking for it, just popped up. Rachel and this guy David standing in front of a house that looked too clean to actually be lived in. Smiling, well-dressed, everything in place. He had a hand on her back, not tight, not close. Just placed there. Like something you do because you're supposed to. I stared at it for a second. Then I closed the app. Not everyone kept their opinions to themselves. One afternoon I was picking up supplies when I overheard two guys talking near the aisle. Yeah, but she did the smart thing, one of them said. Guy couldn't have kids. What was she supposed to do? I didn't turn around. Didn't say anything. Just grabbed what I needed and walked to the register. But I heard it. All of it. And for the first time, it didn't hit the same way. Wished it not one. That night I sat at the kitchen table with the ultrasound printout in front of me. Two small shapes, hard to make out unless you knew what you were looking at. I traced the edge of the paper with my finger. Thought about everything that had been said about me. Everything I'd started to believe. Then I leaned back in the chair. Let out a slow breath. Maybe the doctor hadn't been wrong. Maybe I hadn't been either. Maybe it just wasn't as simple as they made it sound. I folded the paper carefully, set it aside. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything to anyone. By the time the twins were born in the spring of 2024, I was running on caffeine muscle memory and whatever strength God gives people when there's no other option. Our son came first, 6 minutes later our daughter. I cried when I heard that first cry. Didn't expect to. I'm not a dramatic man, never have been, but something about that sound, raw and loud and alive, cut straight through me. Emily looked exhausted and beautiful and half out of it. You okay? I asked her, because that was the dumb question men always ask in moments like that. She gave me a tired little smile. I just had 2 babies, Mark. Right, I said. Stupid question. That made her laugh, barely, but enough. The nurses moved around us in that calm, efficient way nurses do, like chaos is just another shift to get through. One of them handed me our son first, wrapped so tight he looked offended about it. Then our daughter. I remember the weight of them. Not heavy exactly, but real. Real in a way words aren't. All those months of appointments, stress, extra work, quiet fear that was over now. We were here. We had them. And just like that, life got louder. There were bottles warming at 2 in the morning, laundry that never ended, diapers stacked in boxes by the hallway closet, burp cloths on the couch in the truck hanging over the back of chairs. We'd start one thing and get pulled into 3 others before we finished it. I was tired all the time. So was Emily. But tired in a different way than before. This kind of tired had something warm inside it. The house changed with us. It didn't look like the careful, clean place Rachel had once wanted. It looked lived in, a swing in the living room, tiny socks in the laundry, pacifiers showing up in places that made no sense. The second bedroom finally belonged to somebody, not to an idea, to our kids. One Saturday morning, I stepped on a rubber teething ring in the hallway and nearly went down hard enough to break my neck. Emily looked up from the kitchen table, one baby on her shoulder, and said, "You all right?" I held onto the wall and laughed through the pain. "Yeah," I said, "house is trying to kill me now." She smiled. "That means it's full." That stayed with me. Because she was right. For a long time, that house had felt like proof of something I'd lost. Now it was full of noise and bottles and diaper cream, and the kind of mess you don't mind cleaning up. I didn't think much about Rachel in those months. Not because I was above it, I just didn't have the time. Then in early fall of 2025, an invitation showed up in the mail. Anniversary party. Tom and Nancy Garrison, 30 years. Country club in Dublin. Tom had been a client once, then a friend. Good guy, straight shooter. Emily knew Nancy from years back too. This wasn't some random event. It was one of those Ohio social things where half the room knows each other from church school work or somebody's cousin's graduation party. I read the card once, then set it on the counter. Emily saw my face. What she asked. I slid it over to her. She read it, looked up. Tom and Nancy, that'll be nice. Rachel will be there, I said. Emily didn't react right away. She just looked back down at the invitation, then set it gently on the table. Probably, she said. Linda, too. That got a small exhale out of her. Yeah, she said, probably. We stood there for a second while our daughter banged a spoon against her high chair tray, like she was trying to break a world record. You don't have to go, Emily said. I leaned against the counter. I know. And I did know. That was the thing. Nobody was making me do it. There wasn't some big plan. No secret speech in my back pocket. No fantasy about humiliating anybody in public. At least, not exactly. But if I'm being honest, part of me did want them to see me. Not because I needed their approval. That part had burned off already. I wanted them to see the life they had been so sure I'd never have. I wanted them to look at my wife, at my children, at me, and sit with it. Not because I was trying to wound them. Because I was done hiding. Emily must have seen some of that on my face. She walked over, set a hand on my arm, and said, Mark, we don't have to prove anything. I know, I said again. But I looked past her toward the living room where our son was sitting on the rug, chewing on the ear of a stuffed rabbit with serious concentration. But I'm tired of acting like I'm the one who should feel uncomfortable. That was the truth of it. She nodded once, no judgment, no speech. Then we go, she said. That night after we got the twins down, I sat alone in the den for a little while. The house had finally gone quiet. Just the hum of the refrigerator, the occasional creak from the floorboards, the baby monitor glowing on the side table. I thought about the man I'd been 2 years earlier, sitting in the dark, holding a medical report like it was a sentence. Listening to Linda tell me I wasn't much of a man. Listening to Rachel walk out like 15 years was a clerical error. I thought I'd want some big moment if I ever saw them again. Something sharp, something final. But what I wanted now was simpler than that. I wanted to walk into that room with my shoulders back and my family beside me and feel nothing I'd need to recover from later. That felt harder than anger, if I'm honest. Anger is easy. It gives you something to hold. Calm takes work. The week before the party, I found myself standing in the twins' room after midnight, both of them asleep. My son on his back, one arm thrown up over his head. My daughter curled to one side, lips parted, breathing soft. The room was dim except for the little lamp in the corner. I looked around at the walls, the cribs, the stack of board books by the chair, the basket of clean blankets Emily had folded that afternoon. A room that once held nothing but dust and unfinished plans was now the fullest room in the house. I stood there and thought, this isn't revenge anymore. This is just my life. And it was enough. The night of the party, I took a little more time getting ready than I usually would. Not because I was trying to impress anyone. That wasn't it. I just didn't want to walk in there feeling like I didn't belong. Emily helped dress the twins. Our son in a small navy button-up that made him look like a tiny businessman. Our daughter in a soft cream dress with little shoes she kept trying to kick off. "You ready?" Emily asked, adjusting the strap on the diaper bag. I looked at her. Simple dress, hair down, no effort to stand out. And somehow she did anyway. "Yeah," I said, "let's go." It's so soon. The country club was already busy when we got there. Soft lighting, low music, people in groups, drinks in hand, talking about work, weather, golf. Same conversations you hear at every place like that. We walked in together, me holding our son, Emily carrying our daughter. And then it happened. That shift. You don't hear it, you feel it. A couple people turned, then a few more. Conversation slowed. Not because I was important. Because I wasn't supposed to be this. I nodded at a few familiar faces. Kept walking, didn't rush, didn't hesitate. Just walked like I belonged there. Because I did. Markham. I saw Rachel about halfway across the room. Same as always at first glance. Put together, hair perfect. Dress probably cost more than my first truck. She was laughing at something someone said. Then her eyes moved, landed on me. And everything about her stopped. The smile froze first, then her posture. Then her whole face changed in a way I can't really explain unless you've seen it before. It wasn't just surprise. It was recognition colliding with something she thought she understood and realizing she didn't. Her gaze moved from me to Emily, to the babies. Slow, careful. Like if she rushed it, it might not be real. David stood next to her. Tall, clean suit, the kind of guy who looks like he's always got somewhere else to be. He followed her line of sight, looked at us, gave a polite nod. No reaction beyond that. Just polite. We didn't go to them. We didn't avoid them either. We stopped near the center of the room where Tom and Nancy were greeting people. Mark Tom said, his face lighting up. "You made it." "Wouldn't miss it," I said. He looked down at the baby in my arms. "Well, would you look at that," he said, smiling wide. "You've been busy." "Something like that," I said. Nancy leaned in toward Emily. "They're beautiful," she said softly. "Thank you," Emily said. People gathered a little closer, not in a dramatic way, just curiosity, natural. Mark, someone behind me, said, "Those your kids?" Simple question. I didn't look at Rachel when I answered. "Yeah," I said, "both of them." That was enough. You could feel it ripple. Not loud, not explosive. Just quiet understanding moving through the room. Taminakuam. I finally turned. Rachel was already walking toward us. Not fast, not slow. Deliberate. David stayed where he was. Linda wasn't far behind. Rachel stopped a few feet away. For a second, she didn't say anything. Just looked. At me. Then at Emily. Then at the babies again. "Hi," she said finally. Her voice was thinner than I remembered. "Hi, Rachel," I said. That was it. No edge, no warmth. Just neutral. She swallowed. "They're yours?" she asked, even though she already knew. "Yeah." Her eyes moved to Emily. "You're married?" she asked. Emily shifted our daughter slightly on her hip. "Yes," she said calmly. Rachel nodded once, like she was trying to keep everything from slipping. Linda stepped forward then. Her expression was tight, controlled. "Well," she said, looking at me, "this is unexpected." I met her eyes. "Life is like that sometimes," I said. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Nothing came out. The Rachel looked back at the baby in my arms. "Can I?" she asked quietly. I hesitated. Not long. Then I nodded and carefully passed our son to her. She held him like she wasn't sure she was allowed to. Like he might disappear if she moved too quickly. Her hands trembled. Just a little. She looked down at him. Really looked this time. And something in her broke. Not loud, not dramatic. She just sat down in the nearest chair. Like her legs didn't trust her anymore. Her shoulders dropped. Her face folded in on itself. No makeup could hide that. No composure could fix it. Just a person realizing something too late. Suro. She looked up at me. What, what did the doctor say, she asked? There it was. The question that had been sitting between us for 2 years. I didn't take out any papers. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't list facts like I was making a case. I just told the truth. He said it was unlikely, I said, not impossible. She blinked, like she was replaying that moment in her head, hearing the words again, the way they were actually said, not the way she chose to hear them. I shifted my weight slightly. Guess I just needed the right kind of life around me, I added. No emphasis. No accusation. Just said it. Linda didn't speak. Not a word. All those things she'd said before about what makes a man, what matters, what doesn't, none of them seemed to fit in that moment. So she stayed quiet. Rachel handed the baby back carefully. Her hands were still shaking. She started, then stopped. There wasn't anything she could say that would land. So she didn't finish it. I took my son back, adjusted him against my shoulder. Emily reached over and lightly touched my arm. Not to stop me. Just there. I looked at Rachel one more time. Then I nodded. Take care, I said. And that was it. I turned. And we walked away. No scene. No raised voices. No need. Sursen. On the way home, the twins fell asleep in the back seat. The streetlights passed in slow intervals across the windshield. Emily looked over at me. You okay? She asked. I thought about it. About everything that had happened. About what I used to think I needed from that moment. Yeah, I said, I am. And I was, not because she saw, not because her mother had nothing to say, but because none of it had the same hold on me anymore. When we got home, I carried the kids inside one at a time, set them down gently in their cribs. The room was quiet, soft. I stood there for a minute looking at them. Then I stepped back into the hallway. There were toys on the floor again. One of those plastic blocks right near the doorway. I almost stepped on it, caught myself, shook my head, and smiled. Didn't even bother picking it up. If someone ever makes you feel like you're not enough, don't carry that with you forever. People speak from their fears more than their truth. Sometimes the life they said you couldn't have shows up anyway, quietly. And when it does, you don't need to say a word.